talk with Shella about what the goal of reef keeping is nowadays?
No, we didn't talk about that.
So, what's your goal when you put together a reef tank?
Nowadays,
Just don't worry about that. I'm asking Ben. What are you trying to
make
do? Trying to
make it
what?
look great as possible, so people are happy. You like personally or in my business?
Yes.
Just make it well. So for a client, I want it to look as good as possible, as quickly as possible as I can get it to get there. If it was a personal thing, I'm just going through the motions. I don't think I'd be pushing.
What
pushing.
does as good as possible mean? What does look good mean?
If you're paying me a client, if you're paying me and you're like, oh,
No.
this is great, here's money.
What? No.
Oh, just coral growth, coral coverage, vitality, fish living, no diseases.
You're trying to make it look naturalistic?
Naturalistic, yeah.
Okay. Boy, wow, that was...
If you want an answer, you should have whispered it to me.
I know you know, because you were in the discussion with me where we talked about this.
But this is me, so you never know where my mind is at. I could have been playing baseball in my head.
So it turns out, so we had this great discussion with a AGA, with a guy who, from the, what was it? It was the...
yeah, wasn't it the Aquatic Gardeners Association?
No, the collective, the Aquascaping Collective.
Okay.
And he said freshwater is better than saltwater because the artisticness of the reef of freshwater is better than the artisticness of saltwater. And we went, what? And we realized, wait, our goal is not to make like an artistic thing. We use artistic principles, but our goal is to make a naturalistic, healthy looking reef.
Yeah, that argument threw me for a loop, and the more I thought about it, because I get it in freshwater, because you get those ones where they're like pointing to a focal point with like, with stone, and then you get these ones that look like miniature forest, and that's cool. I'm telling you, I think it's cool.
100%
but I don't
cool.
think that has any relevancy in saltwater.
Yeah. And let us know what you think about that, people. There's the new people are doing scapes with macroalgae in saltwater now, and that's kind of easier. And we kind of told this guy that, and hopefully we'll have the audio for that, and we'll be able to play it because it was great discussion. But we were saying, he was saying that the tanks are set up for like 6 or 8 months, and then they're on to the next one, and it's like, oh no, at least Ben and I, we're setting up reef tanks for years till they grow in, right?
When he's tearing his down, ours are just now looking like something.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the goal of reef keepers anymore. We used to, Chris Maupin used to make fun of my tank, when I was starting it out, because it looks like a fruit stand, right? Yeah. Lots of little corals all over the place, right? And it was like, shut up, man, give it a year, right? And it would grow in, and then it would not look like a fruit stand. The fruit stand is what a lot of people want nowadays.
Really?
They want to collect their corals and display their corals like they're potted orchids. And then when they get too big, they clip them down and sell pieces of them. They don't seem to be, there's not as many people who seem to be interested in this long-term, let's make a reef that grows in over time. That's why all those displays, I think Joe Caparata was telling me about this too, the displays that are kind of set up with all the pedestals all over the place, the rock all set up as pedestals, that's designed to like show off individual pieces that then are cut up. So,
that's weird.
Maybe we're dinosaurs, or maybe it's just, a way to be in the hobby short term, right?
That could be. And I'm not trying to pick on them, but I recently just randomly was watching a Worldwide Corals video, and it was sort of interesting because they were speaking to a minorly famous comedian, this lady, and so he was sitting down in front of her tank, and I had to say, her tank did look cool, and I was sort of not surprised, but it's not like she wasn't like someone in the industry, a reefer, but it struck me too, because they were both saying all these names, but they're using the fancy names that I don't do. and it sort of gave me, I don't know if the word's epiphany, but it was like, oh, because they weren't talking about the aquascaping, they weren't talking about the filtration, they were just talking about the items she had, and it was all that sort of stuff like purple gorilla nipples, and oh, where do you get armor of God, and oh, and and the first thing that popped in my head was Pokemon, like
Yeah.
gotta catch 'em all. And I
Yeah.
was like, going on here?
Yeah. So that's a way a significant section of the hobby is moving, or has moved, and we don't know about it because we don't have collectoritis.
Well, I guess I would say is, as long as, well, let me put that caveat on it. As long as everyone is respecting animals and putting as much due diligence into what they're doing to do what's best for an animal, I don't really care what they're doing in the hobby, whether they're making something look natural or collecting or any of that. It involves animals, so put the animals' needs first. But past that, I don't really care what you're doing.
Right. Except the epiphany of that to me was like, oh, now I think I have an understanding of why sometimes I'm not connecting with people, because their goals are not my goals.
They're
They have
not
a-
doing.
Yeah, I'm not doing a collector display. I'm trying to get things to grow in. So I don't care. I mean, I shop for corals based on, do I like how they look? And Aquashello was fun because Unique Corals was there, and Cherry Corals, Todd Cherry.
Yeah.
I love that guy so much.
That's cool.
But I was looking at their stuff, and it's like, oh, you do have some stuff that I really like. But I don't care what it's called. I only, I'm not buying it because it's got some lineage. The only lineage I care about is that it's, if it's been around for a while. I don't actually care if it's, WCC's Leprechaun Spunk Undata or whatever, Donkey Punch Acro. I don't care. I
And
care what
that's-
it looks like.
When you talk to some of those people that do that too, I'm not going to name names, but they'll get obsessed over lineage, and that's a part of a conversation where I appreciate the obsession, but I'm like, because sometimes I guess you could say, oh, if it was the original Space Invaders Pectinia, it has more like lime green tips, where all these other ones are like a dark. And I'm like, I don't really care about that, to be honest with you. For me, I don't do that. And I could see how a grower is obsessed with lineage because they would want to, you could claim more money off of that, and that's fine. That's fine. But again, that's another thing where, like, that's not my thing either.
Right. And
we're all trying to do different things, I guess.
yeah, and understanding that has made me a little less confused about why sometimes we're not connecting with people. They don't care. And it also made me understand why people, some people think that their rock is supposed to stay white.
Now that's weird. I don't understand that.
Right. Well, that's what it starts with. Anything that grows on it is dirty. It's not about the rockscape. It's about the coral the collection of corals being displayed and being alive. And so they're not, because they're not thinking about, oh, in a year the tank is going to look like this. They get confused and freak out with a little bit of diatoms on the sand or a little bit of change of color on the rocks. They don't get it because they're not thinking about it. And so I can say
Some
what?
of those might not have even been in the hobby long enough, or for all we know, even plan to be in the hobby long enough to even want this euphilia to be this big, which is a thing that I do. I mean, I guess I'll show pictures right here. I'll provide pictures to show like colonies in my clients' tanks that is like bigger than my head.
Yeah.
I'm just like you. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. I had to hack my euphilia in the other room the other day. It's good. I like took half of it out, and you cannot tell. I had to hack it up because it was growing forward, down, and up. It was like, meh. But that's why I want a bigger tank. Maybe that's the only reason. But if their goal is not to grow it out, which is like, I mean, maybe I'm stupid, but it's like it's such a twist to my brain and going, oh, people don't want to make it look like it grew there. They don't care.
Yeah. So those aquascape things you're talking about is almost like like you said. I mean, you were making that point, but it's almost like a pedestal showcase.
Yeah.
So like, here's a this, and here's a this, and that's cool. That's sort of weird. I mean, I'm not pooing on it. It's a different way to look at stuff.
Yeah. We need a name. We need to put those people in a box and put us in a different box.
Showcasers.
Showcasers. Showcase reefers.
Showcase reef.
Showcase reefers versus naturalistic reefers.
That sounds good to me. Showcase reefers.
Yeah, and not to make fun of them.
No, it's just a different thing.
Yeah, but it's not. It's nice to. I feel relieved understanding the difference.
You know, it's weird. Like if you do that, like showcase reefing, you're not even hoping like the corals. So you wouldn't even have the thing where like, oh no, my birds of paradise Seriatopora hystrix is growing into my Melcostylo, because it's a showcase, and you probably try to do stuff to just keep them on their own little pedestal.
Right, and I had fucking Hawkins echinata and Beefy Blue Stag making out. I had to separate them. Like, stop kissing, you corals.
Now kiss.
And I just crushed I just snipped it and let the pieces fall.